Captain Midnight.
This video is brought to you by Skillshare, and it has spoilers for Spider-Man Far From Home. I probably don't have to tell you that Far From Home is a movie that ends with massive consequences for Peter Parker. Mysterio's final illusion turns out to be far more devastating than a few optical tricks could ever be, as he, with the help of a certain loudmouth media man, lets Peter's secret out on the world stage, while blaming him for tons of crimes in the process. So yeah, between this and the whole dissolving into dust thing, Peter has been experiencing a lot of that classic Parker luck lately. But with all these movies under his belt, where does the Spider-Man franchise go from here? And how can they capitalize on this massive change to create a film that tops Homecoming and Far From Home? That's what I'm gonna try to dig into this week. Because even more than Homecomings, this ending leaves Spider-Man's future with so much opportunity to tell a really interesting story with. And even if it's just for fun more than anything, I think it's worth tossing out a few ideas of what those stories could look like.
But I want all you big shot media people there to record it. And now that I'm...
So before any story elements are even decided on, we should probably talk about tone. Because Tom Holland's Spider-Man movies definitely have a difference tonally from something like Spider-Man 2 or even The Amazing Spider-Man. Now, I think there's some real substance to both films, as explained in my Far From Home review, but there's no denying that taken as a whole, MCU Spidey aims to be a bit lighter and more comedic than past entries. And I think they've pulled that off well. But the ending of Far From Home may signal that that tone is about to change. Now, there's no way the next Spider-Man film will be joke-free or anything. I think it's clear that's one of the areas that Jon Watts excels at. But at the same time, I really think it won't be as light as the previous two. I could be wrong about that, but I do think that now, more than ever, is a good opportunity to have the MCU's Peter Parker face some harsh realities. Peter has always tried to maintain his personal life as a regular teenager alongside his job as a superhero. But how will he react when all of that is taken away from him at once? However it plays out, I do hope that it has bigger repercussions than Aunt May discovering his secret identity did. It also opens up a lot of possibilities for villains. Jon Watts has said that he'd like to bring in Kraven the Hunter for the next film. Now, I'm a little confused how that would work with Sony's announced plans to develop a solo Kraven movie around the classic Spidey story Kraven's Last Hunt, but I guess we'll just assume that project's probably been put on the back burner. Anyway, Kraven in the MCU is a pretty exciting idea, because he might just be my favorite Spider-Man villain who has yet to show up in a movie. Anyway, what would this Kraven be like? Well, there's a rumor floating around that they plan to have him be from Wakanda. Now, I take that with a ton of salt because the rumor is very unverified, but it is kind of interesting to think about. In some ways, it could make perfect sense. It would give Kraven a great excuse to use spears and knives and all that good stuff, but with a futuristic comic booky twist. And I think that could be visually really cool. It would also tie the movie into the MCU more, which I could appreciate. And while I don't have any big problems with that idea, I do think you run the risk of making the MCU feel a little small. Not to mention, one of the most over-the-top and fun things about Kraven is how much he loves to yell about being from Mother Russia. But what's really important to me is his motivation, and this is where things get interesting. I really hope they don't go down the route that Kraven was just hired by someone to kill Peter Parker, because I think that's pretty boring. With the world knowing his secret identity, the target on Spider-Man's back is bigger than ever, and it would make sense that Kraven could be the one who wants to claim that prize for himself. What I love about the guy is just how self-serious he is. Kraven has kind of a bizarre moral code, a lot of ideas of what makes an honorable hunt, and really respects his prey. This could make for a pretty fantastic presence in the MCU, as his straight-faced seriousness clashes with the humor of the rest of the cast. I also wouldn't be surprised if the movie pulled in elements of the Ultimate Universe's Kraven. There, he was originally an Australian reality show star who wanted to defeat Spider-Man on TV for a ratings boost. Now, I don't think they should adapt that very closely. For one thing, the whole reality show angle very much feels like social commentary from the mid-2000s, and for me it just hasn't aged all that well. I've also never liked that his motivation here was to boost ratings. I think Kraven works best when there's almost something primal and spiritual about his hunt, more so than when it's just a publicity stunt. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised to see them go the social media route, where instead of a reality show, he could be well known for his Instagram and YouTube presence, where Peter and Ned could watch footage of his insane hunts. Again, that's a total shot in the dark, but I could see it happening.
You say you like thrills? Well, hang in there, heroes. Today's adventure was webbed up especially for you.
But what if we don't want to go with Kraven? Well, there is a few other things I'd like to see. First off, I think they're well on their way to developing the MCU's version of the Sinister Six. Assuming he's actually alive, they have Mysterio, Scorpion, and Vulture. And that could be fun, but one villain I'd really like to see them tackle is the Hobgoblin. As someone raised on the 90s cartoon, I've always felt the character doesn't get the respect he deserves. We've seen the Green Goblin over and over again in various forms, and I really don't want to see them try to top Defoe or go the giant green monster angle like Ultimate did. I think what's exciting about the Hobgoblin is how much freedom the writers would have, because the character has never really been tied down to one secret identity. Tons of people have been the Hobgoblin in the comics, including one Ned Leeds actually, so they could really go any direction with it they want, creating a new take on the character pretty much from scratch, which I think could be really exciting. I'd especially like to see a mystery element to the movie, where Peter and the audience are both totally in the dark as to who the Green Goblin could be. This could really underline Peter's main problem in the movie. While everyone knows he's Spider-Man now, the Hobgoblin's biggest asset would be his secret identity, and that he could really be anyone, making Peter completely unsure who he can trust. I would just love to see the character show up, and it could be really cool to see a more comics accurate costume for a goblin, instead of a Power Rangers flight suit, something I've never loved about the first Raimi film. And don't even get me started on the other one. I also want to mention one more kind of goofy idea. So since we finally have J. Jonah Jameson in this universe, why not use him? Instead of just being a small cameo, everyone's favorite awful journalist could be a major player in the story. This could actually intersect nicely with Scorpion, who, as far as we know, is still sitting in prison with the Vulture. Although if he didn't disappear in the snap, he might be out by now. In the comics, JJ played a big role in the creation and funding of the Scorpion. Now this never would have worked in the Raimi movies because that Jameson, when he got down to it, was a caring guy. But this new MCU version, we really have no idea what he's capable of. And maybe more importantly, what he could inspire. Maybe he doesn't so much fund the Scorpion's creation, but he radicalizes Gargan through his internet show to take on the Scorpion identity and to try to bring down Peter Parker. I think that could be a smart way to weave together the Scorpion's origin story with the commentary on media and journalism that Far From Home was really going for.
First, I will destroy your reflection, Spider-Man, then you.
But really, that's just a few fun ideas I've had. I'd actually really like to hear yours too in the comments. Who do you want to see in the next Spider-Man? And maybe even more importantly, how do you think they're going to work the word home into the next title? These What's Next for the MCU videos are always some of the most fun to write because I basically just get to daydream about what I would do if I got to write one of these movies. And as someone who writes fiction, there's something super fun about that. If you also enjoy that stuff and would like to improve your writing, check out Storytelling 101, Character, Conflict, Context, and Craft on Skillshare. Taught by best-selling author Daniel Jose Older, this is a course that really gets into the nitty-gritty of fundamental writing techniques, and breaks them down in a way that I found really interesting and helpful. And most impressively, he does it in a way that I haven't heard 1,000 times before. But that's not all you'll find on Skillshare. There's so many great classes to choose from, and it's hard to even scratch the surface because Skillshare has over 25,000 courses. So click on the link in the description below and get 2 months of access to all those classes absolutely free. Go to skl.sh/CaptainMidnight18. That's skl.sh/CaptainMidnight18.
Here's here's a special tip for the fellas and girls who have not already joined Captain Midnight's new 1940 Flight Patrol. You'd better hurry up and join at once because there's a big adventure ahead. The thing to do now is to get started because we're going to have not only barrels of fun, but loads of free gifts and prizes, too.